Preston Hale dialed the number with the particular irritation of a man who'd already made up his mind before the call even connected. 3 consecutive missed cleanings. No notice, no explanation, just an empty house on days it should have been spotless. He was fully prepared to terminate the contract the moment the call picked up. Instead of his housekeeper's familiar voice, a small, uncertain child answered. "Hello?" Time seemed to stand still for Preston, his prepared, clipped termination speech dissolving instantly into confused silence. To understand why that small hesitation on the phone caught Preston so off guard, you have to understand the particular efficiency-driven mindset he'd built his career around. At 46, Preston ran Hale Property Management, a $95 million portfolio built on strict, unforgiving operational standards. Within his company, he was known for treating missed obligations as simple failures to be corrected or replaced. Vendors, contractors, staff, all managed with the same clean, dispassionate efficiency he applied to spreadsheets. He rarely paused to consider the individual human circumstances behind a missed deadline. Deadlines were deadlines. "Is your mom there?" Preston asked, recovering his composure slightly. "She can't come to the phone," the girl said, matter of fact in the particular way children explain serious things without fully grasping their weight. "She's really sick and sleeping a lot." "Who is this?" Preston asked. "Zoe," the girl said. "I'm 9. My mom is Marisol. She cleans your house." Preston, softening slightly, but still primarily focused on resolving the scheduling disruption rather than any deeper concern, pressed for a few more details. "How long has your mom been sick?" he asked. 4 days, Zoe said. "I've been making my own breakfast and getting myself to school. I'm pretty good at it now." Preston felt something shift slightly in his chest at the casual, practiced way a 9-year-old described managing an entire household alone for nearly a week. "When does your mom expect to be back at work?" Preston asked, still somewhat impatiently, trying to resolve the original scheduling problem. Zoe's answer arrived without hesitation, honest and completely unguarded. "I don't know. The doctor said her kidneys aren't working right, and she has to go somewhere for treatment 3 times a week now." Preston went completely silent, his prepared termination call collapsing entirely under the weight of 9 simple words from a 9-year-old. Preston sat with the phone still pressed to his ear, running an uncomfortable calculation he hadn't expected to face that afternoon. He had employed Marisol for 6 years. 6 years of reliable, thorough work, and he realized with growing discomfort that he knew almost nothing about her life beyond her cleaning schedule. No awareness of her family circumstances. No emergency contact beyond her own cell number. Nothing on file that would have told him a health crisis was even a possibility. "I'm coming over," he heard himself say. "Is that all right?" Rather than terminating the contract as originally planned, Preston drove directly to the address on file, arriving at a modest apartment complex he'd never once visited in 6 years of employing the woman who cleaned his house. Zoe answered the door, pale and visibly exhausted beneath her composed exterior. Behind her, on a worn couch, Marisol lay under a thin blanket, her complexion ashen, clearly in a state far more serious than a simple flu. "Mr. Hale?" Marisol managed weakly, struggling to sit up. "I'm so sorry about the missed days. I'll make it up, I promise." "Don't worry about that right now," Preston said, kneeling beside the couch. "Tell me what's actually happening." Marisol, weak but coherent, finally explained what she'd been carefully concealing from her employer for 2 months. "I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease," she said quietly. "I need dialysis 3 times a week now. I've been trying to keep working around it, hiding how bad it's gotten, because I was terrified that if you knew, you'd replace me instead of waiting for me to get better." Preston felt the full weight of the admission land heavily. You've been managing this completely alone for 2 months. The deeper reveal of Marisol's circumstances surfaced slowly in the careful, guarded way people speak when they've learned that honesty about hardship often costs them more than it helps. She was a single mother with no extended family nearby, her complicated immigration status limiting her access to several forms of assistance that might otherwise have been available. More than anything, she carried a justified, well-earned fear that revealing a serious illness to an employer would result in immediate termination rather than support, a pattern she'd witnessed happen to other domestic workers she knew personally. I couldn't risk losing this income, she admitted. It's everything Zoe and I have. The deeper reason Preston couldn't simply walk away from that apartment surfaced in his own memory, unbidden, as he sat beside Marisol's couch. His own mother had worked as a domestic cleaner throughout his childhood, silently enduring a serious illness of her own for nearly a year, rather than risk losing the steady income his family depended on entirely. He'd been too young at the time to fully understand what she'd sacrificed by staying silent. Watching Marisol now, the parallel landed with uncomfortable immediate clarity. My mother did exactly what you're doing, he told her quietly. I watched her hide how sick she was for almost a year because she was afraid of exactly what you're afraid of right now. I'm not going to let that happen again in front of me. Preston moved quickly and decisively. He arranged immediate, proper medical transport for Marisol to a specialist for follow-up evaluation, personally covered her uninsured dialysis costs through his company's employee hardship fund, and hired a temporary in-home caregiver to support Zoe and manage the household during Marisol's ongoing treatment schedule. This isn't charity, he told Marisol firmly. This is what should have already been available to you. I'm sorry it wasn't. In the process of activating the hardship fund, Preston discovered something troubling. The program, established by his own father years earlier, had never once been used by a single household staff employee in the company's entire history. How is that possible? He asked his HR director. We've employed household staff for over a decade. Most of them likely never knew it existed, she admitted. It's never been actively communicated to that category of employees. Preston moved immediately to correct the gap, ensuring every current household employee received clear, direct information about the fund's existence and eligibility. With medical support secured and a temporary caregiver easing the household burden, Zoe returned to a normal school routine within 2 weeks, no longer responsible for managing her mother's care and an entire household on her own at 9 years old. I get to just do homework now, she told Preston during a follow-up visit, delivered with the same matter-of-fact honesty that had first alerted him to the crisis. Not laundry, too. Over the following months, with consistent dialysis treatment and financial security no longer hanging in constant uncertainty, Marisol's condition stabilized considerably. Her nephrologist noted significant improvement in her overall stability once the stress of concealing her illness and managing it entirely alone was lifted from her daily life. She eventually returned to modified, part-time work months later, this time with full transparency about her ongoing medical needs and a flexible schedule built specifically around her treatment days. A phone call intended to end someone's employment instead exposed a family's silent crisis, one that had been unfolding for months in plain sight, invisible, simply because nobody had ever thought to look closely enough to notice. Preston's story is a reminder that efficiency, however well managed, will always fail to notice the quiet suffering happening just beneath its surface. Sometimes the most important discovery isn't found in a spreadsheet or a missed deadline report. It's found in the moment we finally stop managing someone as a line item and start actually asking what's really going on in their life.